We would cook everything, man.
Yeah.
But then there was a time when I quit, when I moved away and was off the rock, it got into the coke still. Like, it was still coke, constant lines, and up all night, fucking can't sleep, can't do anything. I didn't lose a fucking pound in 3 years, dude.
Right.
Smoking rock and sniffing, and I barely ate, but for some reason,
it didn't.
I'm the only addict who was like, you could look at me and be like, that guy does not do hard drugs.
Yeah.
Like.
Welcome to Pulling the Trigger, the podcast showcasing interesting, unusual, and controversial people and ideas, where no subject or topic is off limits, completely uncensored. Hosted by Mark Hughes.
Hey everybody, welcome to Pulling the Trigger. How we all doing? Today's guest is a good guy. I've gotten to know him over the last few months. He came to Vancouver while I went to Ontario. We crossed for different reasons, but we're going to learn more about him in a moment. You know what to do, everybody. Let's get this podcast out there. Let's force it non-consensually into people's faces. Get them to find out about, overtake the algorithm and tech overlords. Let the name Pulling the Trigger ring out. And you know how to do that? Liking, sharing, subscribing. So let's take a moment now. Thank you. And if you like what I do so much that you want to support me financially, if you like, no pressure. If you want to exchange labor and products for currency that I can then buy other labor and products for, you can do so at www.subscribestar.com/Mark Hughes Comic. So before we go any further, I don't have much to report. BC went into its second wave lockdown, so not much fucking comedy. There wasn't much before. Now there's really not that much. So I don't have anything to report. Nothing's really going on, so I'll just be plugging away, doing what I got to do. Going to Alberta next week, but that's about it. Edmonton. That's about it. We're going for a few days. I am looking at moving to Alberta. BC's not working out for me again. Not liking it here totally. All these lockdowns have sort of, I don't know, one place is as good as the next if everywhere's locked down right now, though, right? So, yeah, don't really have much to report. Hey, if anyone's looking for a private comedy show that's completely legal, you can get a hold of me at www.markhughescomedy.com. There's an email form in there. You can find it in there. Go to contact, all that stuff. So anyway, today's guest, as I said, buddy of mine, met him out here in Vancouver, but he's from Ontario. He's from all kinds of places, actually. And he's got an interesting story with some interesting perspectives and some interesting things to say. Let's meet JR. Audio recording.
Audio on. Check.
Yeah,
Right.
Your levels look good.
Perfect. Oh, not my cholesterol levels.
No, they look terrible. Clearly. Yeah. Everybody laugh at the fat guy. Ha ha ha. You have emotional problems that you use food to cope with.
Fat jokes.
Yeah.
Like fat people, they never get old.
That's right. Actually, yeah, your levels look really good.
Cool.
I know we're about right. I can turn mine down a little bit. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, man. So cool. Here we are. Got you on.
Finally, I'm a big fan. Glad
Cool.
to be here.
I guess you knew about me before I even moved out here, right?
Yeah.
Comedy's a small world.
It is.
Especially online, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't until I moved here, but you were in Toronto at that time. But
Yeah.
your online presence definitely caught my eye, and
Yeah. I'm the only one who says faggot.
so I didn't have to search far, but definitely had me
Comics
hooked.
who say faggot.
Yeah, that's it. I just didn't know how to spell it
Boop.
because there's so many different spellings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so fuck, I don't even know how to start. I'm kind of. We were just. I did a Zoom show. JR was my my audience. Yeah, my security.
Audience.
Security/audience. In case anyone mouthed off, because fat guys, they can really hack into computers and install viruses.
I would dox them and
Yeah.
get a virus on them right away.
Yeah. But it was fun. I've never done one before, but I don't want to take up too much time talking about that. I've done a Zoom show. I never thought I'd do one. The only reason I did is because Aaron Berg asked me to do it.
It was fun. It was really good.
Man, I've heard terrible things, and
Yeah.
that one I was fucking, like I was saying earlier, I was actually that was about as close as you could get to a live show without being at a live show.
I really felt like I was watching a live
Right.
show online, or at least like a part of the audience.
Right.
Yeah, you could hear everything.
Yeah, it was
good.
cool. I would do that again. I've been converted.
There you go.
But like you said, you've done shitty ones.
Yeah, because we used to host. Like I've done them for other people, which were okay. They
Yeah.
were fine. But then I hosted one every week during
Right.
that first lockdown until we finally got a spot.
Right.
They don't always go that well.
No.
But that one you did was well more produced and
The audience was great too, man.
so good.
Yeah.
So good. They were loud. You could hear everybody.
Yeah, Aaron was making fun of Indians.
I love how he pulled up pics of everybody
Yeah.
and just went at them. And
Crowd work is great.
crowd work online.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd see it.
No. Having seen him do that, I would know how to do that now.
That's
though.
right. Yeah. I wouldn't have even pictured it until I saw that and go, oh, okay. The whole time watching, I was like almost taking things into.
So here we are. You've been doing comedy for a while now.
Probably a year and a few months.
We're into second wave lockdown now, as of a couple days ago.
Yeah. Freshly new lockdown.
Yeah. We might be comedy rebels.
We might be.
Comedy criminals. And
Comedy criminals.
There might be.
We have to do prohibition comedy.
Yeah, you have one show. We won't bother getting into it just in case someone rats it out. But,
Right. But
that
it's
you might still keep
might
going.
still happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who watches this.
Yeah.
And if fag comedians watch it, that, like they might go, oh, there's something to, yeah.
Well, when it was even posted online for a quick minute,
Yeah.
we got a few comments right away.
Right.
Like, are you sure you want to go through with this?
Right. So,
But whatever.
because to the viewers, we're not allowed to do comedy.
Right.
Restaurants in BC are open.
Yeah.
But they don't want gatherings. Comedy would, I guess, constitute a gathering.
Be an event. Can't have events.
Events. That's what it is, right?
Events is the word they use.
Yeah, man. Fuck it. Fuck comedy. Who cares?
Yeah. The first lockdown, I was depressed about it, but now I'm kind of like,
We can survive it now.
yeah, I've gone through it.
Also, I'll just do illegal ones.
Right. Yeah, there's always something.
Yeah.
Find some back alley.
Dude, that thing I did on the Zoom, you could reproduce that.
Yeah, for sure.
We could figure out good ones to do and stuff like that.
That could help relieve the comedy need for a bit, for sure.
As I said before, here's what my ideal will be, and I'll try and do this if the lockdown goes on long enough. Find 10 patriots
That's
who
right.
will be the live audience.
That's right.
And then fucking a garage or
Perform
a living
in the
room
garage,
somewhere.
something,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then stream the fucking thing.
Right.
Right? That would be. I think people would be into that.
Sure.
Because then it's even less like a Zoom show, and it's more like they're watching a show. It was like Comedy Snacks, what you were
The
doing.
Comedy Snacks, when we finally got Havana, we could be in-house.
Right.
But we were streaming still, too.
Just never worked out with an audience, though,
It just didn't, because that first lockdown, people were, like, I think more freaked out
Right.
at that time. And the way Havana was set up,
Right.
it wasn't easy to get people in there. Like, there was, in the theater part, no tables, no drinks, no food.
Doesn't sound fun.
They've changed it now.
Oh.
Have you seen it? Oh, wow. I've seen pics, and, well, now it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But when they did switch it up and they got a liquor license back then, they got tables. They took out the theater
In
seating.
the theater. Oh,
they
wow.
took out the theater seating.
They had to. It's been like that for years, man.
Well, I mean, like, we knew it wasn't working like that. We stopped doing our show there. They eventually just were
Right.
like, we got to do something because
Right.
nobody wanted to perform or go.
Right.
Yeah.
Havana's a theater in Vancouver for those who care or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Havana.
No. Cuba.
No.
Although Vancouver is turning into Havana, Cuba. Yeah, man. So reason I wanted to get you on is not to talk about comedy, because we don't give a fuck about comedy. Comedy's dead right now. We don't care.
And we talk enough comedy off.
Is you've had a fairly interesting life. JR and I drove to Edmonton once a couple months ago, and we just got to know each other quite well. And he's you used to smoke crack.
Yes.
Man after my own heart.
That's one way to get into it.
I used to smoke crack. That's great.
Yeah, I man, anything I like, I get addicted to.
Yeah.
And that includes crack, food, all kinds of things, anything. Right. I even got addicted to working out at one point.
Right.
And lost a bunch of weight, but we'll talk about that. But
I went to clearly AA, worked on that,
and
right?
then I got addicted to food again. Yeah. And then but yeah, so I had knee surgery when I was 19. I needed 2 knee surgeries, so I had one at a time, but I had one. I was off work, then just collecting unemployment. My cousin ran it, and a few friends in the same building in Ontario just all of a sudden pulled it out one day in his apartment while we're sitting there, and I was just recuperating and not able to do shit. And I tried it, and that was it, man. Wow.
Did you catch a ringer the first time?
Woo, yeah. Buddy, what a high. Like, there's no better feeling. Like, I couldn't.
If you shoot it.
Well, yeah, that's something I said I would never do. But I mean, like, yeah.
Because you can't find a vein.
Yeah.
Or his cock.
Did, man.
Keep going. Keep digging. Just like he has to with the fat folds to find his cock. All right. Anyway. Okay.
3 years.
You smoke crack.
Yeah. And
daily?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How'd you support your habit?
Fuck, man. Just being around them, it's like 40. It's like, okay, we'll pick up a gram here. We'll pick up a half ball here. We call the same guy 15 times a day, and we because you'd smoke it all, and then you'd be searching on the carpet for pieces, and then eventually it's like, how can we scrounge up? Oh, I got 5, or I got some change here, and we just made it work.
Yeah.
When you're an addict like that, you just fucking make it work.
You figure it out.
You figure it out, man.
Yeah.
And we just spend from the time pretty much awake until it was like, all right, I'm gonna call it a night.
Right.
And it was just constantly, okay, how much can I get this trip? How much can I get this trip?
Right. Yeah. Wow. For 3 years.
And it was a delivery service, so it was pretty convenient. Yeah.
What city was this in?
This was in Brampton, Ontario.
Gotcha. Right.
Yeah. 3 years, man.
Right.
I had to move away and I cut everybody off in order to stop it.
Right.
But you know what? I don't remember a really hardcore detox from it.
No.
I had a harder time with cocaine.
Just like snorting it.
Snorting it than crack.
Wow.
Yeah, like cocaine, man. And we'd sit there sometimes. Sometimes we just found a really good coke dealer who had really good coke, and we never snorted it. We were just like, oh my God, if you cook this in a spoon, you get a lot of crack from it. Like you get a lot of rock. And we're like, it was the best. So we always had this one coke dealer who smoked with us. So we always had bags on. We were just sitting there. We're like, all right, give me that until next week. Give me that until my next check. And he pulled it out. And me and my buddies, we swapped at the table. We sat there for pretty much 14 hours straight with a spoon and a lighter and coke and a key and stirring it and just hardening it up. And okay, let that dry. Let's keep going. And our mouth's just going there.
This will be the part where we have to take a shit. Audience, if you have to take a shit right now, the commercial break, put a poo. Poo.
Yeah. And we'd almost be like, oh, we can't snort that. We got to cook it. We cook everything, man.
Yeah.
But then there was a time when I quit, when I moved away and was off the rock, got into the coke still. Like, it was still coke, constant lines, and up all night, fucking can't sleep, can't do anything. I didn't lose a fucking pound in 3 years, dude.
Right.
Smoking rock and sniffing, and I barely ate, but for some reason,
it didn't.
I'm the only addict who was like, you could look at me and be like, that guy does not do hard drugs.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way. But yeah, it's the weirdest thing, man. So first it was like almost like a diet thing I wanted to try. No, it wasn't.
No.
But you figure you lose weight, right?
No.
I barely ate, man. I couldn't eat. Like, you can't eat on that, man.
I remember when I did coke, I couldn't eat. I could eat on heroin. I couldn't eat on coke, though. Yeah, no, heroin doesn't actually affect your appetite that much.
I've snorted heroin.
Yeah.
A bunch.
Yeah. Makes you puke if you do enough. But heroin is your high for a few hours, right?
Oh, and I love the nod.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it.
Yeah, but it doesn't... If you can find the right space with heroin, which if you're an addict, you can't. Mm-hmm. But if you could actually be very productive.
Right.
Right.
Where
you're not nodding off too much.
Right.
you can eat, you can function, you can show up to work. You don't want to because you're on heroin. That's the other problem. You feel so good, you don't need. You're just like, homelessness. I'll worry about that later.
I would drive my heroin dealer to his methadone pharmacy every morning, and he would give me a bag, just for me getting him his drink, and his Tang. Yeah. But that was our deal. Yeah.
Right. And then you moved away to Red Deer. That's how you.
Yeah. So what happened was, in high school. So this is before that. So in high school, I used to sell weed at high school. Like that's what I did. And then I went to pick up from my dealer, and what I didn't know at the time, it was my dealer, because him and his buddy showed up in a mask and a gun. And they robbed me. And they knew I had money because I was there to pick up a bag. And they robbed me. They took They may not know now, but there used to be Rogers Video with Blockbuster Video, and I had a Rogers Video card. They even took that, and then they took off. But my actual dealer, he never did any of the talking. He just held the gun to my head, and so they took off. I left. I was freaked out. I was like 14, 15, and the cop station was right beside. I went to the cop station, and I was just like, I didn't mention anything about the weed, but I was like, oh, they took my money. They robbed me. They took my money. They took my Rogers Video card. Cops went to Rogers Video and saw them running around the store, but grabbing all the games they could and movies. And when they brought them to the police station, they're like, "We need you to ID them." And I was like, "I didn't set your faces," but I see them walking down the hall, and it's my dealer. I'm like, "You son of a bitch!"
Right.
And but once my parents found out that someone held a gun to my head, they freaked out. And I have a sister in Alberta. I have a couple sisters and a brother in Alberta, and they shipped me to my sister in Alberta to finish high school and that. Right. Then I came back. Had the knee surgery and got addicted.
Gotcha. Okay, so crack.
The Red Deer thing was first.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't get to crack until I was 19 or 20.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. And for 3 years.
For 3 years, yeah. But I did coke for a good 6, 7 before I got out of that.
Right. Now you come from a big family too, right?
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 8.
Yeah.
And 10 years between me and the second youngest.
Right.
We're not close at all, any of us. Half of them were already actually moved out. There's a few different dads in the situation there. And when I was born, I was born in Newfoundland, and we moved to Ontario when I was 3. So siblings stayed in Newfoundland, and then they eventually moved and went to Alberta and to make
all Newfies end up in Alberta.
They want that oil money for the summer, and then they'd collect either unemployment and go home for the winter and do hunting.
Right.
And that was the schedule.
Well,
there was no work in Newfoundland at the time.
Right.
Fisheries were all closed.
But if you can have your rent and bills paid, Newfoundland's a great place to live.
It's the fucking best, man.
Right.
It would be beneficial if you had the money to just go open like a 5-star resort in Newfoundland, because a lot of celebrities, a lot of rich people visit there because it's a great location. It's beautiful. It's just, it's cold, and there's no resorts and stuff, and there's no work.
Right.
So people leave, and people there live off the land pretty much. Like, you hunt in the winter, and you eat all year, and just good people that you don't even lock your doors, man.
I've never met a Newfie I didn't like.
See?
I've met some ones that, like, they're crazy, and like...
They're crazy. They're drunks, and they're crazy, but they're good people. Like, in the end, like...
There's a Newfie I don't like.
I have a few, and they're in my family. Yeah. Like, that's the Newfies I don't like, but that's,
The Newfie I don't like, it's not her fault that she's from Newfoundland. That has nothing to do with it. It's, be too specific if I mentioned.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it would be very easy to narrow down. But that one I don't like very much.
I wasn't raised there. I really wish I was. But the rest of my family was raised there, and then when I was born, we moved to Ontario. And yeah, and then my parents just moved around GTA and Toronto. Every year we moved. Because my parents were superintendents when they moved there, and my dad was just a horrible person to get along with. He never got along with anybody, so he left the job. He got fired every year, and we moved to a different building. Whoever would hire him, we're going here, because it was free rent to be a
building superintendent. Yeah,
and easy work. He's a preacher on Sundays, and that was his job though throughout the week. He was a superintendent, and
but he's just a hard guy to get along with.
A horrible person,
right?
Absolutely hard. Like, there's a huge story there too if you want to get into it. But so like, my dad was super abusive, massively abusive, constant backhands to the face for no reason, constant. Like, you could be sitting there at dinner table and he just flipped the table.
Did he at least give you a reach around though?
No, none of that.
Not that kind.
No,
Fuck.
I think to some of my sisters.
Really? Eh?
Yeah, they've never opened up about it.
Is he dead?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not that I know of. I think I would have heard.
Right.
I haven't spoken to him in over a decade,
right,
15 years maybe. I just had to stop the relationship, and just never changed. Just a horrible person, constant abuse, constantly beating up my mom. Me and my mom actually had to take off. And that was the situation then. So at that time when I was addicted to crack and that, and we moved because of that. Me and my mom just took off. We went somewhere else. I was able to kick the rock. My dad was finally out of the picture. But yeah, he definitely held an iron fist to us our whole life.
Right.
Yeah, and I grew up always feeling guilty of something because he always made you feel. You always felt like you did something wrong because you're getting beat all the time. Walk in the door, you'd have to change the channel on the TV or switch it off because you weren't allowed to watch certain channels. Anything like that. If you found a certain tape, a cassette tape for all you CDs, MP3s, whatever now. But if you found something, and like I'd come home and he'd be like, "What's this?" and then he just beat the shit out of you because you had a AC/DC fucking tape or Meatloaf's "Bad Out of Hell" cover. He'd see that and be like, "Oh," and freak out. It was brutal. So that led to high school, and I got beat up in high school and bullied insanely. Like, it was just rough, man. I spent a life of getting beat up and feeling fucking guilty. So that took a long time to get out of your mind. Like, that stays with you when you're an adult for a while, and being brainwashed by his religion because he was a preacher, and so he was holy on Sunday and a devil the rest of the week. But everybody held him in such high regard because they didn't know what was going on. And that took a while too, just getting rid of the brainwash of the religion out of your mind too. But eventually you have to do it. When you're an adult, you're responsible for that shit. Yeah, sure, shit happened to you as a kid, but now you're responsible for how you deal with it.
No, it's the patriarchy.
You can't use it as an excuse.
No, it's the patriarchy.
I can't be like, oh, he's that way because he had an abusive dad.
Colonialism.
Yeah,
systemic racism. That's it. That's yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, man.
It's not in vogue to take responsibility anymore, though. That's a shitty thing. It's like you get more points for being a victim now. That's
absolutely.
That's what kind of sucks.
Yeah, that's what I try to tell people, and it's an unpopular thing to say. To be like, you're still responsible for yourself now. You're an adult now. Now you have the choice, and
yeah,
it's up to you to change.
A friend of mine once said that he who struggled with growing up in foster care and having his own victim mentality. He did say one time to me that it's like he's now been an adult far longer than all that other shit was going on.
Right.
So at what point does
the majority take over?
Right.
Right, like you're more adult now, so that shouldn't be the majority of your life.
Right.
The abuse, the foster stuff, and that.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. And now I'm not like I spent a lot of years then hating religion and people and religious people and Christianity and stuff like that.
Fuck, I'll gladly take them now, man.
But I realize they're good people, like I do too. Mm-hmm. But I also have an issue. My issue, though, with them is this. If you're a Christian, like Pentecostal, I guess, I don't know too much about other religions, but their main concern isn't this life and this earth. They're looking forward to something else, so they don't give a shit about this place. That's why most white evangelical politicians and stuff don't care about, things that have to do with the planet and how long we're going to be here, or who cares about how their grandchildren will live. Hopefully by then Jesus will come and take them all.
Right.
So they don't care about this world. And that's where I'm like, fuck, like, how can you tell someone to care if they're looking forward to a world after this?
Right.
They don't give a shit about this.
Right.
So that's all. That's my only issue now. But as far as people, they're great. I take them over fucking anybody.
Well, see, the thing is, and I talk about this a lot on the podcast, as you know, it's like society's being run by an ideology now, right? It's not. It used to be religious, Christian. It's Western society used to be like heavily Christian.
Yeah.
Now it's this kind of identity politics, fucking postmodern, whatever the fuck it is, intersectional.
I don't even know anymore. Man.
Me neither.
I don't.
It's really complicated.
Because I used to be able to point things out, and I can't anymore.
So and that's why I'll take religious people over that. So you grew up in an abusive home, fucking feeling guilty all the time. When did you first start, would you say, acting out, looking for coping from it?
As soon as high school started.
Right.
Soon as, because I grew up in the church, I learned music in the church. Everything was like, that part was okay from other people. But once I hit high school, I realized I got introduced to drugs, and I skipped classes, and I finally started failing courses because of skipping and doing things like that. And I just, that was when, as soon as high school started, I was fine up until then.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just fucking downhill from there, man.
Right.
That's when it all started.
Right. And drugs,
hijinks and
all that stuff, hanging out with people, finally finding a little group of people that I actually were friends with and stuff. It was cool.
When did you start getting into music?
So I started the drums when I was about 6 or 7 in church, in our youth service. So I was always fascinated with music, but learning the drums at that age was great. That was all wonderful. And then high school, in grade 8, we got a tour of our high school. Okay, this is where you will be next year. It was like an introduction to high school and how different it'll be, because it's a big difference, elementary to secondary school. This is in Ontario. I don't know how it is in Vancouver as much, but they were like, okay, you get to pick your courses you want. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm not forced to do certain things I don't want to do. And I just randomly picked things, some of them I must have, because the first day of high school, I'm trying to find my class, and I find this class after lunch, and I walk in, and it's a music room, and it was a guitar class. Like, we had a specific guitar class I took in grade 9, and they'd rent you out a guitar for the whole semester, and a teacher that was just brilliantly talented and amazing. I learned a guitar in that one semester, and that was it. I couldn't put it down. Guitar then was my number one instrument. Every day I finally had something I could go home and do, and then I started meeting people that were in bands, and I started joining bands and doing shows, and I found out, I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to be a rock star. I'd tell my mom. She'd be like, oh, shut up. But yeah, that was it. High school, man. 13. When I hit 13 with the guitar, the drums and things are cool, and I was always into music, and I played drums, but when I hit high school, I was like, ooh, I'm not playing church music right now, because I would play in the church and things like that, and still fun, and it's still a beat and stuff, but now I was playing rock music with a guitar, and I could plug in and be loud and distort it.
Right.
It was awesome.
And you even said, by your own admission, you can say you're good at playing the guitar.
I'm good. I'm not going to be like, oh, I don't know, I'm average. No, I'm good. I played for a long time.
It's okay to admit if you know you're good at something.
I put a lot of work into it. I played in a lot of bands. I know what you need to do. I always had a good ear for music. I could fucking listen to a song, and give me 10 minutes, and I can actually play it after, that kind of thing.
Right. Also, you worked really hard to get really hard.
Because as a guitarist, if you really want to be really good, you have to practice like 8 hours a day. Like, it's no joke. Like, guitar, and you have to start young. Like, it's hard to start when you're old, but when 13 is a great age. And then you get home and you're just obsessed with it, and like, you have to. And I bought like all the guitar books and magazines every month. I was so into it. Music was a huge escape from my reality. Right. Like, at home, I'd hide my music, but when my dad was gone, oh man, I'd blast it, and it was really cool. That was it.
So you can play the guitar?
Play the guitar. I can play bass. I played bass too in a few bands when they needed a bass player.
You can sort of play the drums?
I can sort of play the drums. I haven't played in a while, but I can play it. Like, it's like riding a bike. You figure it out.
Can you play piano?
I took piano lessons for a little bit, but I didn't finish them. I didn't really get into it. When you're a guitar player and you're so into music, you see the keys, you figure it out pretty quick. Like, if you put a keyboard in front of me, I could play at least 2 other songs, and stuff like that.
Nice. But you and I have talked a lot about this, and I'm not trying to skip to comedy, because we're not going to talk about comedy, but you did music for a long time, played it for a long time, was in lots of bands, had lots of fun, but you never did become a rock star.
No, and I was never fully content with it, because now this is what got me into comedy, though. It was figuring out, I used to write sketch comedy with a few people too, and we'd do sketches and want to put it on the internet. We even had our own site. But you're working with other people, and it's like, we talked about that. But it's like, in a band, I can write. I always wrote lyrics growing up. I had a binder full of lyrics, and that's what I did. I was a loner with lyrics. When I wasn't getting beat up, I was just writing in the lunchroom or somewhere, and then I could play the guitar, and I knew what I wanted the drums to be, and I knew that, so I could write full songs myself, and I knew they were good, and then you'd bring them to a band, like other members, and you'd let them listen to it, and then they'd start dissecting it. They would change things. They'd be like, oh, we want this. The bass player's obviously gonna, I'll do this. I put my own style. The drummer's gonna add his own things. By the time it's done, it's not even my song anymore. And I hated that. I really didn't like that. And I knew it was better before. I know it's conceited to say, but I knew it was better. Right. It's just I couldn't sing. If I could sing, I would just record it all myself and release it myself. Who cares? Right. But you still needed a touring band, but I would need band members that didn't care about writing. They just wanted studio musicians, I guess. Right. I got so fed up with that, man. I was just like, I'm always contemplating my art. I'm always throwing it into a bunch of people, and letting whatever comes out, I'm supposed to be happy about. And then I realized stand-up comedy is something you can do alone, and you don't have to run.
Yeah, and you never have to worry about what other people think. Especially other artists, because they're all into free speech and stuff.
Which was my initial thought. Yeah. So I found, like, in Ontario, I came to this conclusion, and I was just like, I found Kill Tony online with Tony Hutchinson. I can't even remember. Hinchcliffe, thank you. Fuck. It's been so long since I watched because I'm like, ooh, I can't stand it anymore.
Right.
But I found it, and I realized all these newbies were going on stage and doing a minute who had never done it before. And I was like, while I'm watching, I'm like, ooh, that was horrible.
Just pause for 1 second. Kill Tony is a live stand-up show recorded and streamed even sometimes.
Monday
right?
nights from the Comedy Store.
From the Comedy Store in LA, and they tour with it too. You can if you're an audience member, you get to put your name in into a hat,
a bucket,
and your name can get drawn. They'll draw names, and you get to go up and perform 1 minute of stand-up.
Yep.
And then they judge you after, which consists of roasting and making fun of you.
A lot of it. Tony did a lot of that,
Yeah.
but he'd always have a guest on, and the guest sometimes was like, "Why are you roasting him?
Yeah.
Like, that was really good what you did."
Yeah.
But eventually, they were saying, "Oh, that's not bad. That was
Yeah.
pretty good for your first time." And I'm looking at it like, "Ooh, that was horrible.
Right.
I could do that."
Right.
And I immediately knew I could do it, and I was like, "Oh, that's the entry level talent."
Yeah.
I was always into stand up growing up. I loved it. I would stand in front of my TV because we still had the turn knob in my room for my TV. That's how old I am. But I would stand there holding the knob because I knew if my dad opened that door, I had to fucking quickly change that because nobody wants to hear Chris Rock or Eddie Murphy and them ripping off.
Yeah.
But I was always so into it. It was super awesome, and I loved it. And I was always the funny friend. Like you're a funny fat friend. There's our funny fat friend.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I could entertain them, and I knew I had a thing for writing, and I was like, I could do this.
Yeah.
So I was just like, screw it, man. I'm going to do it. And I needed a change from Ontario. I needed an environmental change. I had fallen back into depression and like just not feeling good. And I didn't have a significant other, and I don't have kids. So I just sold my belongings in my car, and I flew to Vancouver and to start stand-up.
Right.
That's what I did. 2019, February 1st.
Right. And one of the things that we've talked about quite a bit is when we're like just driving around and shit is your weight is a thing that you're
so I grew up always big, and then about 7 years ago, my buddy he's a personal trainer and a health freak, we grew up in Ontario together, and he's the one I wrote sketch comedy with and I did music with, and he knew, like, he's like, oh man, like, he was really concerned about me because he's like, he saw something different in me amongst all the people I hung out with, and he's like, he's not just some regular dude. This guy's funny. He has something. His music. He's a musician. He's great. So he always was like, let's move in together, and he would just run me through a course of health, like constant workout every day, and I did that, and I lost 200 pounds in a year and a half.
Right.
If you look at my old Instagram, you'll see all those old photos of me. And I got really healthy, and I was a freak at the gym, like 3 hours a day, 6 days a week, eating constantly healthy because I lived with him. There was no bullshit. And then that was so great and fantastic at the time. But as a big guy growing up, and then you lose all that weight, and all of a sudden people look at you different. And I've never lived that life. So it was in my 30s when I was living what I should have been doing in my 20s, which was out with a bunch of women, getting attention, dating, screwing around, all that stuff. I was like, this is what I should have been done doing 10 years ago, but I was doing it now in my 30s. And then eventually women finally started coming into my life, and the health and stuff took another backseat. And because, I don't know, I guess I really have a bad addiction to food. Like I don't have a self-control over it. I had it for 5 years, and I was able to hold on to it. But eventually you slowly start doing bad things again and eating again. And
one thing I can say about addiction is you got to stay on top of it for the rest of your life. It's a maintenance thing for the rest of, even if you've had long periods of abstinence off of whatever it is, it's still in there.
You're still addicted, I think, but you're just fighting it daily. You're absolutely right. And before I knew it, like, I was putting off the gym because, and now women are in my life. I need to give them time. I couldn't focus on myself, and to me, I just didn't know how to handle it, man. Because eventually, my roommate at the time that got me healthy, he moved out. He went to Thailand for 6 months and just did his own thing and wanted to journey. be that person. And I stayed on it for quite a while, but then I just slowly, before I knew it, I was back to where I am.
Right.
And I just knew then, I was like, fuck. And my buddy now is living here in Vancouver, and he was just like, get back out here and let's start again. Like, let's try again. And so I came out here, I started comedy, and comedy has taken up so much of my time. I really still, again, haven't really dug into the
lifestyle's not conducive to healthy living either.
It's not. And for even him, he's so healthy, but he can't start comedy.
Right.
Like, it's one or the other, like it seems to be. So I'm trying to incorporate it eventually coming up soon. I might be doing something that incorporates comedy with weight loss.
Well, comedy's dead for a while, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
You know what's interesting, and this sounds, I don't know how it sounds, but I'm kind of like not unhappy that comedy's dead again. I'm like, whatever, fuck. We had fun for a while. And,
we had a good run there out of the first lockdown for a while.
And it's like, if it dies for a while, I know I can handle it. I mean, it might be rusty.
Like we were coming out of the first one.
Yeah.
But because we've been through it, maybe we just feel like...
also, the scene in Vancouver started getting gay again. And it's just it's like...
It's not as fun to do for you as much.
No. Yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of anti-patriotic or anti-libertarian, but... yeah, man, after doing it, like, not to dwell on comedy too much, but after doing it as long as I have, I could tell you one thing is it's in Vancouver. Fuck, man, it's not that on stage. As I always say, I love that part.
Right.
The rest of it, though,
there's so much to comedy more than the on stage part.
But dude, like, it just goes to show you watched that show that I did, the Zoom show.
Yep.
They were all fucking cool, right?
It's not the audience.
No, but I mean the comics.
Oh, the comics too.
That show with
right.
Aaron Berg, Gino Bisconti, Adrian Appalucci, Aaron Berg's wife, Christine. I can't
Christine
remember.
Berg, I guess.
It's something.
But
Berg.
it's something Berg. Yeah.
I bet you they wouldn't have been too bad to hang with.
Well, by the sounds of the show, they'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's more of my hangout crowd anyway.
It goes to show that it's not necessarily all of comedy.
Seems to be based here, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm new. I haven't traveled much with it, but I take your word for it.
It's bad here. Okay, it's bad in Canada.
Right.
It is. Canada's notoriously a cunty comedy scene. Canada's a good place to start doing comedy, though. It's just the glass ceiling. Not just Vancouver, the whole country is very low. It's very low here because of small population, large landmass, and physical proximity to the United States.
Which is something I knew even before I started comedy. Like my long-term plan was to come here, start comedy, but I knew eventually, like most, because I watch a lot of comedy. You don't see big Canadian comedians doing Canadian shows.
No.
So I knew eventually, and I knew of the Comedy Store. I'm so into comedy, or places in LA that were like meccas for comedy. And I was like, and the rest of the U.S., not just LA, like New York as well. Yeah. I knew that was the place to be over here and over Canada in general.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So that was my long-term goal anyway. I was supposed to go last fall to the U.S. at least for 6 months. We were just going to save up enough money, go to the U.S., pay rent for 6 months, and just do comedy. Yeah. But that got pushed back because of COVID. I was like, okay, I'll push it back to now, and now it's going to get pushed back probably again. We'll see. I don't see the world coming around in a bit.
No. Yeah, I want to move from Vancouver. This is round 2. I officially, other than being in prison, I've lived away from Vancouver once in my life, and then I had to come back, and I'm like, oh yeah, right. This is why I don't like it here.
And you've spent both lockdowns here.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm. Yeah, no, I'm done with Vancouver, as we've talked about many times. You guys don't know about that, but I'm going to be moving. Probably Alberta. Shh, don't tell anyone. But I don't know when because of this.
Well, now with these new things, who knows? Alberta may not be good for comedy either.
I may just fucking sit it out for a while, right? Yeah. Like, if there's no comedy, one place is as good as the next. Who gives a shit, right? Because my life is comedy, and here we are talking about comedy.
The main issue here is the comedy.
My thing is comedy.
Right.
My life revolves around that. So wherever I have the greatest likelihood of having a career of some kind, that's where I got to go. Whether it's Edmonton, whether it's Calgary, whether it's Toronto, whether it's the UK, whatever the fuck it is, that's my plan.
And when you planned the move, it was before all these new restrictions and everything anyway. So.
Anyway, fucking enough.
I know. The last thing I want to say about comedy is, doing it as long as you're fine without it. Me, personally, I'm just... just getting things going, and I running 3 shows a weekly. It was enjoying that.
Yep.
I'm gonna miss the stage.
Yep.
I am gonna miss the stage for a bit.
Oh yeah, I miss the stage too. Don't get me wrong. It's just the rest of it. In this city, it can really fucking take a toll on you, right? Like especially if you're not getting anything, right?
Right.
Because I won that award, the People's Choice. I won the Best Comic of 2020. Let's not ever forget. We have to make sure no one ever forgets that the people chose. However, I still can't do shows in the city other than I can panhandle spots off of JR sometimes, but there's no career for me here. The thing, as I've explained many times, I'm saying this more for the audience right now. It's like they don't. The industry, the infrastructure, they don't give a fuck if you're good, right? Like, oh, so what if people thought you were good and you might be able to sell tickets? We don't care about that because we're fucking communist pedophiles. Like they don't. They don't care. It's about elitist gay shit all the time, right?
Right.
Anyway, enough about that.
Yes. Thank you.
We do that all the time in the car, and I do it all the time on this podcast. So anyway, Hughes 2020. Here's something I was just thinking about asking you as a larger man.
Yeah.
Having been a larger man, and then a not so large man, and then a large man again, you did touch on it a little bit. Did you notice getting treated differently?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the women part, but what about
constant? And then especially people who knew you when you were big and then lost the weight, there was huge admiration from people that was like, I can't even fucking believe you did that, because it was pretty drastic and pretty fast. But yeah, it was constant. Even people, when you talk to people, it's different. They smile, they look at you in the eye. My work was different. The way that people treated you, everywhere you went, it was different. Everything was different, and I felt different. So yeah, it's a constant thing. When you're this big, man, you just got to get used to being treated.
Even though you're big, you're invisible.
Yeah, that's the thing. Absolutely. You're treated like shit, man.
I can really sort of relate to it. The short thing is similar.
Yeah. Oh, that's a huge thing too. Yeah. And I even recognize that. Yeah. Like if you're not 6 foot, you're not looked at with respect as much. And it's even proven in annual incomes and stuff and jobs and where you are. Like if you're not 6 foot, you're not getting those positions. Yeah. They don't respect you.
No. Manliness and masculinity is measured in height.
Yeah. Which is a huge dating thing too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so you started getting attention from women once you lost the weight. What about before that?
Oh, zero.
Really?
Nothing. Zero. Absolutely.
Long
nothing.
Periods of being single and celibate.
Yeah, just the funny friend. Right. Everybody else was in relationships. Everyone else was getting married. Right. Everyone else was having kids, and I'm just the dude floating around.
Right.
Yeah. Orbiting around.
Right. Yeah, no shit. Sounds like a silly question, but maybe you can answer it and expand upon it. Was it lonely?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was a huge issue, man. My whole life, that's been a huge issue as far as friends. Actually, I have a huge group of friends, and it is odd. My friends come from high school even and a bit before, and we're still very close, and we hung out still all the time, which is not something that usually happens. Usually, when high school ends, you lose those people. When they get married, you lose those people. But I was able to keep in touch with them, and so I always had that. But as far as actual women and things like it's fucking lonely, man. Yeah, big time.
It's one of those things I can imagine that you have trouble with the food.
Yeah.
Probably because there's a core loneliness anyway from other reasons. Yeah. And you reach out for the food.
Yeah.
It makes you gain weight. Makes you lonely again.
Right.
Then you reach for food. And then
Fat Bastard said it in Awesome Powers. It's the deadly cycle, you know.
It's 100% true.
And that's true.
That's true of crack too.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a huge underlying issue that you don't even really bring up I don't bring up or mention. It's almost like that's just a common thing with me. I've just been lonely. That's just my life.
Right.
I've spent my life doing everything myself. Like there's no relationship where it's like half and half stuff, or like someone else would do some things that you needed to be done daily, or whatever it was. Because you always hear couples as like, oh, can you pick up this, or can you do that for me? Can you do this? Oh, when I come home, do you need anything? When you're me, everything's yourself. Like you don't have nobody to do that for you. Anything you need done, you do yourself. There's no splitting anything.
On the one hand, it sounds somewhat free because you don't need anyone.
It's turned me into someone who can do anything myself.
Right.
I don't need anyone now. Absolutely not. But that's been because of all the years of doing it yourself anyway.
Right.
So I do feel like, it's given me some traits and things that other people don't have.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I from being institutionalized, I'm like that too. I don't really like people in my space too
That's
much.
right. And me too. Even though I'm a pretty jolly guy around people and I'm a people person, and people gravitate towards me because they feel comfortable and they feel like, oh, he has a happy glow.
Yeah.
And I do when I'm out in public. But then there's leave me the fuck alone, Jamie, that just doesn't like I'm fine going home alone. I'm fine waking up alone. I don't need anybody. But when I'm out in those circles, I change into that person. I live both lives, introvert, extrovert kind of thing.
Yeah, man. I fucking hate hanging around people.
Yeah.
I don't like people at all. No, sorry. That's like, I'm an emo. I don't like, no, it's not that.
Right.
I like my space. I like one-on-one.
Right.
I like
right.
I actually really like one-on-one.
Yeah.
As soon as there's another person, I don't like it anymore.
I can tell you're a very one-on-one person with...
one-on-one or by myself.
That's right.
It. The loneliness may be one of the reasons you like comedy so much, too.
Yeah, it's an easy thing because most comedians, they say, oh, we're lonely people.
And then there you are.
Yeah.
People sort of have to pay attention to you.
Right. All of a sudden I'm on stage and people are looking at you and they're
going, ha, ha, ha.
They're actually laughing with you instead of like at you and pointing. And that definitely fills that void. And I don't think about that much, but it's true. It's a good point.
Comedy does something for everybody. Right. Yeah. We don't do this for no reason. Right. Because if it was really just to be creative, we'd paint and finger paint in the fucking bedroom. We don't need it.
I wouldn't need other people to
even music. You don't need other people for music.
I really enjoy just playing music alone in my room.
Right.
And I could play guitar for hours.
Because you don't need an audience.
Don't need anybody. Don't need anything, man.
The audience is just for the money, really.
With the music, yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's all that is.
Yep. Because you could even record and still not have an audience.
Do everything at home, man. Yeah. If I could sing, I'd have albums upon albums out and stuff. I would just do myself.
And you'd just make them and then
I'd be fine, release them, whatever. It's just fun to do. I don't care. I was like, hey, I wrote some songs. It was cool. But with comedy, you can't just do that.
You need the audience. That's the hard part. Is that's what makes it so difficult. And so many, it's hard because you're facing humiliation. It's hard because you do need to go find the audience. Right. It's hard because where do you get the audience? It's hard because now you got to get people to the show. It's hard because, well, you need to do it as much as possible. Just like practicing the guitar, I need to perform in front of people as much as possible, which means I got to fucking negotiate with faggot comedians to get stage time, right? And
the stage time is your bedroom, and like that's where you can.
As much as it's an independent thing, solo thing, you're completely dependent on other people to get it.
Absolutely,
yes.
And being new to the city, and that when I came here and started comedy, I didn't have any friends to bring to shows. I had nobody. I had people at work. But then I quickly learned I didn't want them to come to my shows because I was new at comedy. And oh, God, because they'd come to those shows and then they'd never come to any others. And then now, a year later, like, you want to come to a show and they're still thinking of you as that first open micer that they came to. You're trying to say, no, it's different. I swear I'm better. I'm better. I swear. Come now.
I'm just thinking of any women who, like some of the girls who might be watching this right now. They're like, oh my God, you're like, don't be talking about yourself like that. And, you're a big guy and a big heart. And okay, fuck him.
Yeah.
Give him a blowjob if you
treat me the same way you treat the rest of them.
Yeah. If you want to help him out, have sex with him.
Which is a funny thing.
That goes for you too, his sisters and mother.
Which is a funny thing you bring up. I used to be very sexual. Like when I lost the weight and that, I learned, I'm really into this, and there are a lot of things, and I always wanted that, and that kind of took the main control. But I've learned now since I've moved here, and by not getting attention again or anything, I don't even fucking think about it, man.
It's a better place to be.
And 100%, because I see all my friends or other comics and things who are getting the relationships and stuff. Same thing for me. I stopped working out. I stopped focusing on myself. They're getting distracted now. I love the place I'm in for that, mentality-wise. I don't want sex and that stuff to become my focus again, because I've completely fucking subdued it.
Right.
Like, even jerking off, I don't even jerk off anymore. It's just... And I find I just have more energy, I have more mojo. Like, it's really your mojo, my creativity. It's why they say boxers, you shouldn't fuck before a fight and stuff, just those kind of things. and I love being in this position. I love not wanting sex anymore.
Right.
I really do.
Right. Well, 'cause you're free.
I'm free. I can focus on comedy and not think about it. I don't have to be like, oh, I really want to talk to someone because I'm lonely. I don't even fucking think about it.
Yeah, women can't fuck you around or anything like
they
that.
have no control. There's no pussy power over me
you
anymore.
you can be like, no, you don't make any bad choices because of it.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving and going somewhere based on it. I'm not I'm not denying shows and say, oh, I can skip this mic because I want to go have dinner or do something with this person. Yeah, it's just not there, and I'm very happy about that. So don't fuck me.
Okay, yeah, stay away, bitches.
Stay where you're at. Yeah,
but no condescending fucking
yes,
shit either.
Stop acting like, yes, please, exactly that. Just shut up about that.
Yeah, because I find women tend to. Guys, no.
No,
'Cause
no.
we know on some level.
Yeah.
Like if you were like, oh, I'm fat and it sucks. It's like I'd be like, I know what it's like to be lonely and not do well with women and be ignored and all that kind of stuff. But men also know that whether it's weight or social skills or anything like that, men tend to know that we can do something about that. Like if you're lonely because you're fat, lose the weight, bud.
Lose the weight.
That's it, right?
I don't blame anybody for anything of that. Like, if I want things to change, like I said, just do it.
Whereas women tend to, because that's how they socialize with each other, they tend to be like, oh no, Becky, you know, it has nothing to do with the fact that you don't take your medication and you fucking try and stab him in his sleep. He doesn't know what he's missing. Like they make excuses for each other and shit.
It's not their fault ever. It's never their personal fault. They don't take any personal.
Especially these days with the anti-body, like the body positivity.
Okay, so
movement.
that's a good point you bring up. As a big guy, you'd think I'd be like, yeah, you should be happy for your body. Don't body shame.
I'm like a black guy. My life matters.
Don't body shame.
My shortened life matters.
Yeah, I'm still a model at this. And I'm still a model. If it wasn't for Instagram, none of you would be models anyway.
Yeah.
But my point being is, I don't think it's cool to celebrate being fat. Like, I don't think it's a good idea to be like, it's okay that size. You're still a model. You can still get the cover of Chatelaine or whatever they're doing now. And you can still wear that swimsuit. It's not about that. I don't care. Wear whatever you want. Do what you want. But don't promote that lifestyle. It's not healthy. It's not good for you. You're going to die early. These are all personal things I'm telling myself. But I'm not going to be one I have to say, oh, no, be comfortable in your skin. No, don't be like that. Like, change yourself. Be healthy. And I know it's like, well, then just do it for yourself, Jamie. I'm not making excuses for me. And I don't think other people should celebrate being overweight and unhealthy.
But you're not, though. That's the thing is you're overweight. Yes. You admit, it's not my favorite, but you're not being like, oh, here's this excuse for me being overweight, and you have to accommodate this because I'm overweight. No. And if women won't, because that's the other thing. You see this one. I'm going to gender it for a second. The big fatty women will be like, oh, you know, I just don't like how it's body shaming that people. Meanwhile, there's lots of guys who are into fat women. That's another thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not a lot of girls are into fat dudes though. Where that's a specific thing.
A fat woman can still make a lot of money online and doing things. There's still a thing for that.
But for a woman to not be into a fat dude is not. It's not necessarily like they wouldn't be criticized,
ostracized for it. No.
However, I don't think they should be.
Of course not.
If she's not attracted to you,
that's her preference. What happened to preferences?
Yeah.
What happened to go, I'm just not into that, without that being, oh my God, you can't say you're not into that.
Right.
Like, you wouldn't date this type of person?
No.
That's a preference. That's not me any other thing. It's not me body shaming. It's not me telling you anything else. It's just, I have things I like. Why if I like certain shoes, why would I not buy shouldn't you buy all the shoes? Shouldn't you like these shoes? It's just stupid to think that way. And that's just the way. If women aren't into me, I get it. That's your preference. You don't want a big fat guy. So what? Sure, whatever. I don't want a big fat woman. I don't want skinny women. What if that was the preference? It doesn't, they're just preferences. And nobody should feel like you can't have a preference.
Now there's a counter movement to the fat positivity, where the super skinny ones are feeling like, oh no, you have to like us too. Fuck, man.
Dude, I don't get that whole mentality at all in anything. Like, why does everybody have to like everybody that way? Like,
they don't.
No matter.
And the other thing is, not only they don't have to. They don't.
They don't. Right.
Honestly, they don't.
In honesty, they don't.
When we're being
when it comes down to it, like you were saying, you fuck him.
Yeah.
But they won't go that far because they really don't.
Someone will. It's always like someone else will do it, right?
I think you're hot, Jay.
Yeah.
I think you're cute and sexy. Okay. But if
Yeah.
I wanted that, then why? Oh, no, we can't cross that line.
Right.
I can't date you.
Right.
God forbid.
Right.
Yeah. I know not too many fat people say you shouldn't body shame, or you should actually kind of like just not promote being overweight and fat. I don't think it's good, and I think it's really bad, and that's so unpopular to say.
Yeah.
Got in so many arguments for saying that online and in person. But it's always to overweight people who are just like, no, I'm okay in my skin. I'm like, that's fine, but don't promote it to other people to be like that. Don't say it's okay to be this way.
Right.
It's not. I don't think so in the long run.
Well, you've also been on both sides, right?
Yeah.
You've lost the weight.
Right. You can do it.
You also told me the other day in the car the health benefits that weren't weight that came about as soon as you lost the weight.
Oh, yeah, big time. So sleep apnea, something bigger people always suffer from. Skinny people have some skinny people, but majority. And what struck me one time was I went to a doctor when I was doing the sleep test and that, and I'm like, what can I do to help this? And he just bluntly said, lose weight. There was no other, and I was kind of in shock at the time, and because I was expecting like, oh, take these pills or something. There's some other alternative, but it was just lose the weight. And he barely looked at me when he said it, and he just kept writing, and that was it. And it's kind of like, so that changed big. When I lost the weight, when I lost about 100 pounds, all of a sudden I realized I didn't need a sleep apnea machine to sleep at night, which is great for women too, because nobody wants to roll over and see a big mask on your face anyway.
COVID ventilator.
Yeah. Or if I wanted to go stay somewhere or stay at a chick's house, it was a rough night of sleeping, if I didn't have it.
Fuck, I had a chick spend the night one time who had sleep apnea.
Yeah.
I just sleep in the other room, and then she came. We only ever hooked up a couple times.
But she wasn't using anything, right? So she's snoring.
No, she came. Yeah, it was bad. It wasn't snoring. It was different than snoring. Yeah,
like it's even worse.
I had to go sleep in the other room, and then she came over another time, and I said, "You're not spending the night."
Yeah.
I risked. I risked a dry penis because that's how. And this was back when I was really pussy simple, and I would have done a lot of fucking stupid shit to get laid. And I risked it. That's how bad the fucking
That's
sleep.
That's where your line was?
I was like, I'm not doing that again.
Are you bringing your machine? Because I'm not sleeping beside you.
No, I just said you can't spend the night.
Right.
I didn't even want the machine. No,
right.
I have PTSD around you spending the night now.
No, it's bad. And another thing, from the age of 13 until I lost the weight, I was taking antidepressants, on different antidepressants every month, because antidepressants are just, try these. Oh, they're not working? Try these. Oh, they're not working? Try these. And it's fucking insane. But I just kept taking them, and the last ones I took, they were like these chewables almost, like, and they were huge, but they'd make me feel like I was on cocaine again. Like it was constant, like my mouth, I'd get, and then every now and then I'd sniff and I'd feel a drip, dude. I'd get the drip, and I'm like, oh, what was that?
Gotta take a shit now.
I'd be in the middle of somewhere and be like, oh, okay. And I'd get that memory, man, of that. And eventually, though, I realized the weight caused the depression. And I realized that I just wasn't happy deep down. Like I may have said, oh, whatever, going through life, not really caring, but being like, why am I so depressed? Why am I so sad? But deep down, it was the weight for me. I never went back on the pills even now, because I realized that. And I'm like, I could just change my thinking for that. But I realized once I got healthier and people finally started treating you like a human being, I didn't need the pills. I wasn't being treated like a human. Like when you're this big, you're not treated like a fucking human. Yeah, so man, that was the two things, man. Sleep apnea and those pills, definitely. Oh, and my knees. So I had 2 knee surgeries, like I said. Once I started working, and like the knee problems have come back. They're torn ligaments. But when you're carrying around all this weight, it's not going to stay. They can fix them, but it's still a lot of weight. But when I lost the weight, holy shit, there was no knee pain. I had full motion. I was doing squats all the way down, like everything, just gone. So the huge, like, there's a lot of issues that it's not just diabetes and it's not just heart attacks. It's all these other things too. And I think a lot of those things cost a lot of money to a lot of different organizations, like the government. Like a lot of money is being funded to things that can be solved if you just lose weight.
Yep. Preventive medicine is actually the what?
There you go.
All kinds of different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Generally, big pharma will try and get in on anything.
Oh, of course.
Anything that, like, even this fucking COVID shit.
Yeah.
There's a big pharma paycheck.
Of course.
Because they're coming out with the the vaccine, which
Right.
the governments have to pay for,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera, et
It's
cetera.
all about the money with them. And Chris Rock said it when I was growing up. It's not about the cure; it's about the treatment.
Yeah.
It's the medication, right?
Okay, bud, we've been talking for a while, and I love you.
That goes fast.
But I want to go home, or I want you to go home. So
I'm not spending the night because I don't have my sleep apnea
you know,
machine.
any closing thoughts? Anything you want anyone to?
Well, I can't promote shows anymore. I have no shows to promote. But I still have a page for things, jrcomedy.com, JR Comedy YouTube, JR Comedy Instagram, JR Comedy Facebook.
I'll put it in the thing. Yeah.
Sounds good.
So, what are we going to call you for the podcast?
It's JR.
JR?
JR.
JR, ladies and gentlemen.
Mark Hughes, king of Vancouver comedy.
Fucking right. Hughes 2020.
Awesome.
Well, that's our show, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining me. Maybe you felt mad at something. Maybe you felt sad at something. Maybe you got offended. Maybe you felt elated. My only hope is that you had an experience and maybe learned something about someone or something that you previously didn't know. Like, share, and subscribe, because that's how the podcast gets out there and that's how we beat the algorithm overlords. Until next time, stay triggered.